Hey guys, welcome back. It is your favorite Gimp with a Limp, and I'm here with a very, very special treat. One that I have absolutely been looking forward to getting to the table. That, of course, is American Tank Ace by Compass Games by the legend, Mr. Gregory Smith there. This is one that I have been looking forward to getting to the table for a while. It's one of the ones that I think of as like a roll and play type game. Now, this is going to be competing with one of my all-time favorite solitaire games ever, which is Silent Victory, also by Compass Games. That's the submarine version where you've got your sub and you're going along plotting your little missions and trying to take out enemy shipping. All cool stuff. Always love that game. And this is, like I said, a variation upon that theme. All right, there's multiple games in this type of genre, what I call the roll and plays, where you're controlling whatever your thing is. I covered one recently, the Sniper Kill Confirmed, also coming from Compass Games. In that one, you're a sniper. This, you're a tank. Silent Victory, you've got a submarine. There's even Zeppelin one where you've got a Zeppelin. It really comes down to thematics. What do you enjoy, and how good are the not the components, but the mechanics of the game. The components aren't that big of a deal. Of course, with this being Compass, the components are quite nice. But I've got to say, after playing some rounds of this, I think that Silent Victory is in a run for its money for my top favorite roll and play game. Because this one is just a lot of fun, and there's some intricacies going on with the battle, which you guys will see when we pop down to the table, that make it a deeper experience than just picking your target and at what range you're going to fire your torpedoes, right? You've got to actually maneuver what flanking chances you have to take. You know, enemies are going to be firing at your flank, or are you trying to target this one or that one, or a bunch of different decisions really come into play in this more than just rolling the dice and seeing what happens. This one actually, in a way, reminds me a little bit more of games like Picket Duty, where there's a little more in depth with it. And I think that as these games have been created over the years, that they found better ways to add chrome, to add deeper gameplay elements to it from the originals that we saw way back in the day, many years ago. B-17 Flying Fortress, right? You know, Queen of the Skies. That's a classic game in this type of genre, but they've expanded it in the recent years, and I really like what they've done with it. So let's pop down to the table and see what this game is all about. All right, so here we are down at the table. Now, I've got us focused in on our two main pieces that we're going to use for the game, but there are a couple other player aids that do come into play that you can leave out, but you don't necessarily need to have these top two out while you're playing. These two are going to be the ones that you're going to focus on. We'll touch on them here in a second. I would suggest organizing yourself as much as possible. If you've got a counter tray that you can put all the pieces in, that way it just makes it easier to get the ones that you need as you're going along. You organize it however you want. I've got it set up, ammo, different ranks, tanks that you can use, and then down here throughout the enemies, split off into tanks or self-propelled guns, armored vehicles, half-tracks, and then different types of infantry that you're going to face. Also, when it comes to the counters, there are a bunch of what they call war trophies that have different types of value, things between different pieces of like German gear, so like Lugers or helmets, stuff like that you can get points for getting, and then different units and or medals that you can actually earn during the course of your campaign as well. Now, you can clip these. These are not pre-rounded counters. Personally, I think that they are punched out nice enough that you don't have to clip them, but if you want to take the time to sit there and clip them, go for it. If I had the excess time, I would do it myself, but I do not have enough time to clip all these counters, so I said to hell with it. Didn't worry about it. Now, with the exception of the four main playing pieces themselves, we are going to have multiple handfuls of charts that you're going to use throughout the course of your game. Main one is going to be your mission log. So this one you're going to mark depending on when you're starting your campaign. I am not starting my campaign right there at the beginning, which would be June of 1944, because then you only have access to the M4, just basic M4, like the starting one. I don't like the 75 mil cannon, never have. I like the 76 mil cannon. So I decided to push my start date up to July and start off with an M4A1. You can do that. You can do it as a one-off mission. You can do it as a campaign. It's your game. Play it however you want. If you want the full experience, though, you should start with the basic M4, the very beginning Sherman tank, and work your way on up. For me, I hate that one. I want the more powerful gun. I want the one with a little punch to it. So I am starting off with the M4A1 76. There are plenty of these that come with the game itself. They are front and back, and obviously you can print off more. And just so you can see, you're going to keep track of what your mission is, how many targets you destroyed, whether you succeeded or failed. And then on the right, it'll let you know when certain vehicles become available. So you see here, my M4A1 doesn't become available till here. So I have to start my campaign on this line. I can't start it up here because the M4 A176 was not available then. And then there's other tanks that will become available as the game progresses, which you can move into, but you do have to earn prestige points through winning battles to transfer into those. And then you have the ability to promote as well. Now, I got to say, I do like this little crew status sheet. It's got a little counter here you can put down for whatever rank you are, because you are the tank's commander. So you're going to start off as a staff sergeant, and then you can become an officer, right? That's lesser. Technically higher rank, but, lesser is what it is. But you can't get a radio to call in your own strikes until you actually achieve first lieutenant or higher. So it does behoove you to pick up your rank if you can. So for us, we are going to be starting as a staff sergeant. I got my little rank here ready to go. And for the Purple Heart one, I always throw that on. I consider that a free space for, for me personally. For the rest of the stuff that's on here, you keep track of points, experience, stuff like that. You can put counters there for it. And then there's a handful of counters that go down here because you can gain certain skills that will gain you bonuses throughout the game. So if you were able to get that skill, like extra gunnery makes it, easier to hit your targets, you'll put the counter signifying that. Same for all your other different characters. But if one of these people die, they're killed throughout your mission, you lose whatever skills they had. If they get injured and they're in the hospital for a while, you'll lose those skills while they're in the hospital. And then you've got a whole thing here that shows for your war trophies, which looks cooler than hell. Our other player aid, and this one's actually mounted. Strangely enough, they mounted this one, which is excellent. This is your battle board. You're going to use that constantly. So I get why they mounted that. If I had a personal choice, I would have mounted the tanks themselves, but I get why they didn't, because that would dramatically raise the cost. These are the thinner cardstock player aids because there's multiple different tanks that you can use in the game, front and back on the player aids. So if they tried to mount those, that would have been a whole extra cost. But they did have enough to mount another player aid. If I had a choice, I probably would have gone with the commander one instead, because that's just the generic cardstock player aid. This one's mounted instead. I would have probably mounted that one instead of this one. It's really not a big deal, but it is nice to have some mounted pieces in here. This has your sequence of play on it, which is a nice little boon, and it shows you where all the operations are taking place. And as you can see here, there are a couple of counters I've already got placed on there because there are special missions that you can get as a assignment. You're going to roll for your assignments, which you guys will see when we do that here in a second. And when you do so, occasionally you will be assigned one of these special operations, whatever it is, the Bulge, St. Lo, all that type stuff, invading the Rhineland. And when you get assigned these, you actually get extra bonuses like prestige points if you're victorious in your mission. Also, you will add the counters there when they're available for those special missions. But if they are no longer available, like you're past that time frame for them, those counters come off and you'll put whatever the next mission is when it becomes available. Moving on down the line, we've got our battle board, which, like I said, is mounted. Very nice. I do appreciate it when they do that. This is where the bulk of the gameplay is going to be taking place, at least the combat. So you're managing your tank here, your resources, your machine guns, your cannons, all that other cool stuff, your crew. Here is where you're keeping track of what's really going on with your tank. There is a little counter here. Focus in, you see that? Shows what tank I am in and what range it's going to be, close, medium, or long. You'll start at different ranges depending on different types of terrain and what mission you're doing. And then also on top of that, you're going to determine what terrain you're in, whether it's urban, bocage, woods, or open, and then what type of weather you're going to have, snow, mud, rain, or clear. And then what mission you are on, which you have assault, attack, defend, move to contact, or I think that's it, or refit. Refit is basically you're not doing anything. You just mark off a line on your sheet, if on your mission log sheet, if you get a refit. It's basically simulated downtime, so the tank gets some maintenance and the crew gets to relax for a little bit. Here is where the enemies are going to be located, because like I was showing you in that counter tray, there's counters for all the different enemies that you're going to face. Your tank is here in the center fighting these guys at whatever range you are at, and you can move back and forth, change throughout the ranges. The enemy can do the same thing though. You'll see that it says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 up here on A, B, and C. So the enemies can start here, but there is a D and an E here where enemies will move up in an attempt to flank your tank and get flanking shots on you so they can more easily penetrate you. Then on top of that, we have our spaces here to mark down whether or not you have popped out smoke. So smoke will degrade line of sight and make it harder for the enemy to hit you or for you to hit the enemy. When we get into setup, you guys will see how all this goes, because like I said, we're going to play through a mission and let you guys see how the game plays, because it really doesn't take too long to play through a mission. Now, looking at our tank display over on this side, it will tell you any special notes, right, pertaining to your tank. This one actually has a little bonus when it comes to fire checks. Nothing else to really worry about. It basically has to do with the wet ammo storage. You've got a spot for any random event markers. And then here we've got our turret facing. So your turret obviously can move around. So while you're here, you might be having your bow face this way, but you've turned your turret so you can fire at targets over here. All right, you get what I'm saying? So you'll keep track of what direction your turret is facing in. And you can move your tank to point in different directions over here as well. So you could have your tank facing C, but your turret pointing up here at B. You can do all of it just like you would do, in a tank. If you have an access to a radio, you'll have that. Spots to keep track of your tracks, whether or not they have gotten busted up. Another spot to keep track of the bonuses that your crew can receive. And then here, you're going to mark whether or not you're buttoned or not. So whether or not the crew is tucked away in the tank hiding, or if they're out so they can see better. The loader and the gunner, you don't have to worry about. Generally, they stay inside the tank, but there's a spot for the commander, the A driver, and the driver on whether or not they have their heads poked out or not. If you take small arms fire, you can have these people, the ones that are open, take some fire. They potentially can get wounded. So you kind of have to decide, do you want to be open? Do you want to be buttoned? Do you rather have a better chance to hit your target, or would you rather, take a safer bet with your crew? This little spot here, hull down or open country, you can maneuver your tank to try to find a spot that's hull down, makes it to where it's harder for you to take damage. And then here at the bottom, it shows our tank armor values. So for the turret, the front of the hull, and then the side. Okay, so a flanking shot would hit here, and then if you're hit in the front, whether or not it's the turret that gets hit or the hull that gets hit. If you're hull down, then you don't have to worry about your hull getting hit because obviously it's down. Here to the right is where you're going to keep track of your ammo. And ammo is a little different in this game in the fact that it is technically unlimited, all right? With the exception of your smoke
and your Willy Pete's, right, which are flaming smoke, the white phosphorus. So here at the top, you have a spot where you can decide how many armor-piercing rounds and HE rounds you have, but these tanks held something like 90 main cannon rounds. So for the mission, you effectively have unlimited amounts of these, but they have to be brought up from storage to be put back into the rack. So that's an action you can give to your loader to grab more rounds, and he can bring 4 rounds to pop back in here in whatever, you know, configuration you want, HE or AP, the armor piercing or high explosive. The smoke and the white phosphorus, once you use those up, that's it, they're done. You don't get more of those. Likewise, some tanks do have the 2-inch smoke mortar that can be used, and you will have a limited number of rounds there to use. I just grabbed the actual smoke counter to use because these are front and back. It says smoke 1, smoke 2. So I just grabbed 2 of the counters rather, and put one on its 2 side, one on its 1 side, because I have 3 rounds of the 2-inch smoke to start with. The machine guns, there's thousands of rounds on a tank, so they are considered unlimited as well, but they need to be reloaded. So you'll have like 4 sets that you start with. Fire once, you flip it over to 1, fire again, you pull it off, and you'll keep doing that with these different machine guns, and they have to get reloaded as well. So you've got the 50 cal up top that the commander can use. You've got the coaxial that the loader, gunner, whichever one, can use, and then you have the bow machine gun that the A driver can use. The bow obviously can only be used at a target that's in front of the tank. The coaxial can only be used at a target that is in the direction that the turret is pointing in. And the 50 cal, the commander's machine gun, can only be used if the commander is in an open configuration. If he's buttoned, then he obviously can't use that 50 cal. Also, some tanks do have the ability to have the APCR armor, not armor, but ammo as well. And you can see this 76 can use it, but it only becomes available in January of 1945. So once I hit that point of the campaign, I could put a couple of those rounds in as well to use. So that's the basic gist of the components when it comes to the game. So what we're going to do now is I want you guys to see how a game actually plays out. Like I said, it doesn't take too long. You roll for your mission, figure out what you're doing, and then get the enemies on the board, and you start tossing rounds down range. It is really simple, and I love it. This is one I don't think that you could get, a campaign done in an evening, but you could easily complete a handful of missions in an evening if you wanted to sit there and, play at it, put a movie on, something like that, and try to pop through as many missions as you can, and then, see how far you can get in your campaign. Obviously, tank commander dies though. That means game over. You have failed and your campaign is over. You will have to restart if you die. Thankfully, though, the rest of your crew, they're kind of expendable video game characters. They can be replaced. But like I said, they lose any bonuses that they've accrued. So let's get started here and roll off and see what kind of mission we're going to have and who we're going to be facing. All right, so let's go ahead and play ourselves a mission and see how it all goes out. Now, we're not going to worry about the map area, right? Like the special missions, St. Lo or Cobra or any of that stuff, unless we roll for one of those missions. Then we'll get involved with that. Now, before you start, you actually go through training, which is kind of interesting. They've never had this in a game before, at least not that I've seen. And I really like this because it kind of gives you a different starting point for each one of your games. Now, you're only going to do this at like the start of your campaign. You're not going to do this before each mission. Now, I'm not going to worry about going through all of these roles for our little example game here, but when you're starting a campaign, you definitely want to do this because it can potentially give you some bonuses, especially like the gunnery training here. You would roll 3 times on the chart on B1 using the long range column, which means the hardest one to hit. So you would actually be rolling here, long range, which means 2d6, 2 to 5. So not a very high chance of doing that. If you get at least 2 hits, you would get the gunnery -1 on the tank display, which means you could get that skill for 1 prestige point less, or 1 experience point less rather, which would make it easier to get it. And that is a consistent passive bonus to your targeting. Really good to get that one. Next one, driver training, does something similar, would give you a bonus modifier towards getting that skill as well. And then same down here with a weapon maintenance training that you can do. This one you actually get to choose, and this is for your commander. You can choose whether or not the player has gained a stamina marker, which will make him less likely to go down to injury. Extra steady, which will make one of his skills easier to purchase. Let's see, yeah, expert -1. And this indicates when he buys the expert skill, costs 1 less experience point, which is also nice. Or if he did something kind of like what Gimpy would do, you know, hanging out at bars or with his buddies, a bar fight causes him to gain a prestige level of 1 prestige point, and receive +1 die roll modifier to his first promotion. And you would actually roll off on that one to see whether or not you lose the fight, or if you win the fight, you gain 1 extra prestige point. Now you start with 1 for going through training period, so you could have an extra couple of prestige points. That's actually really cool. And then you're done. You have graduated from Fort Knox. Place a 1 in your experience point box on chart 2. So that cruise chart, the one up here on the left, you would start off with 1 experience point. Now I like having my map display out like this, already pre-set up. You have to have your tank and everything ready to go. And then my map, I go ahead and have my little counter here for whatever the weather's going to be. The couple of different mission markers, that way whatever it is, because these are front and back, I can go ahead and just slide it right down into the mission spot. And same thing with your terrain marker. Your tank marker here, I go ahead and place it into the long range, but remember, depending on the terrain, you might possibly be at medium or close range, and it can also be affected by the type of mission that you go on as well. So when it comes to the missions, you're going to start by rolling here on your chart, and that is also a 2d6 roll, but it is dependent on what time frame you're in. Okay, so we are in July 1944, so we're still here on this first column. The next month we'd move over to here, and then so on. So the missions would change throughout the course of the game. So depending on the type of mission that you get, that can affect the enemy troops. So things like attack will actually cause the infantry to be dug in right at the start of the battle. And I think it's assault. Is assault even one of the options? Yep. Right here at the top, an assault would cause everyone to be dug in. So they're like prepared for you when you come in on it. Then we have possibilities of a refit or movement to contact. But our special, I don't even think defend. Oh, nope, we got 1 defense down here as well. The special one for us is right here. You see, it shows the 1. So if we rolled this during this time frame, then that means we have St. Lo. So if we've already done some missions and already done St. Lo, then you don't have to worry about that. You just ignore it and you just run a normal attack mission. If you haven't done St. Lo, then this counts as the St. Lo special mission. And then you can see throughout the rest of them, there are the little red parentheses that indicate that if you roll that during that time frame and you haven't done that special mission, then you go on that special mission. Now, having one of those major events, which I call special missions, it doesn't really affect how the battle is going to play out for you. But like I said, you do get extra points. So it is really good to get those missions if you luck out and get one of those. All right, so let's roll here and we're going to see what type of mission we are going to have for our first battle. And we got a 12. All right, so you guys forgive me. That's a refit. We're going to ignore that and roll again because I'm not worried about filling out the mission sheet for this. But like you guys can see, that's a refit. That's just it's a free space basically. So yeah, we're going to roll this again and kick another mission. All right, so rolling again. 10. Okay. we got a 10, which is an attack. Unfortunately for us, we did not get the 6 attack, which would have put us at St. Lo. I was hoping it was going to be St. Lo, but that's fine. We'll have an attack mission. So we take and flip this counter here over to attack, and we place that in our current mission so we know where we're going. All right, so now we do our weather, which is time dependent as well. Let's go ahead and roll and see what we're going to have for our weather. That is a 10. 10 is clear. Damn, I got 10 twice. So you see right there, clear. So we will take our weather marker. We're going to slide that down here to clear. Now we got to figure out what terrain we're going to be in. All right, so next up, going to be terrain. Again, we're looking at this, and this changes throughout as the time goes on to signify the fact that you are fighting in different areas. So you're more likely to, hit Bocage early on when they're near Normandy and France and that area, and less likely to hit that later on. As you see, we're in woods and open and urban instead of Bocage, woods and open. So we just roll a single D6 and see what we get. And we got a 6, which is going to be open terrain. So we'll place our terrain marker here down at the bottom to signify the fact that we've got our terrain. So now we know we are doing an attack mission, we've got clear weather, and we're in open terrain. So that means we are going to be starting at long range away from the enemy. That's good. It'll give us a little time. Close range in the infantry can mess you up a little bit. All right, so now we got to figure out, we know what and where and when and what weather and all that good stuff. Now we got to figure out the who. The who comes on this enemy generation chart, which is also going to be time dependent. Again, we're here on the first column. So things like INF, that's infantry, AT is anti-tank gun, R is recon, T is a tank, HT is like a half track. What is a W? W is a truck. Okay. Well, I guess they had to figure out something else to go with since T is already for tank. So yeah, we figure out what we're fighting here. And if you got something like a truck, like 2 trucks there, that's not just 2 trucks. That's 2 trucks that are full of infantry. All right, so let's roll our dice, see what we're going to get. And that is a 9. A 9. That's going to be a little bit of a pain in the butt, but not too bad. We can deal with this. That is a self-propelled gun and 2 infantry. Not too bad. Now, we have to figure out what we are fighting. So, SPG, we have to roll here on our chart to determine what that's going to be. But we also have to figure out our infantry by rolling on our troop quality here. So we'll do that afterwards. So first, our SPG, figure out what we've got. So we'll roll our D10. We got a 5. What is a 5 going to be? Stug 4. So we'll put that one right there. All right, these little stugs are a bit of a problem. I did not want to have to deal with one of those guys, but, well, we'll take care of him. He's definitely going to be target number 1. All right, and so for our infantry, we roll here on this enemy quality. And what we're looking for is this first column, right, to see what level morale they've got. Hopefully get a 1, get low morale enemy. The 2 to 5 is just general, so that's just normal infantry. Or you can get 6, which is elite, like the Fallschirmjäger or the SS. So do our single D6 roll, see what we get. And we got a 5, which is going to be Wehrmacht, so it's just normal infantry, nothing special. So we can grab those guys out, and they will have a morale of 4. So we're going to have a couple sets of those, which are front and back, because they do count as having 2 steps. But they're going to be dug in because we're doing an attack mission. So I go ahead and grab a couple of dug in markers and I place right next to them. Now I've just set them on the board, but now we got to figure out where they're going to be. All right, so what we're going to do is to figure it out. Like I said before, we're going to do a D6 roll, A, B, or C, to determine where these guys are. So let's do for our Stug 4 there. Hopefully he'll just be straightforward. I want to just take him out first go. Nope, he's going to be in 6. So he'll be here at C. Roll for our set of infantry. And of course, they're all spread the hell out because why have them together? But I kind of want them all spread out. So it'd be nice if we got a 3 or 4 here. Nope, 2. So we've got infantry there, and they're all dug in. But we are going to be at long range. We've got a Stug at 5 or 6, or at C, and then 2 infantry here at A. Now, the thing is, when you're doing a combat like this, you want to try to leave the infantry to last, at least in my opinion, because if there's only 1 infantry counter left, they bolt. They peel out. So if you can take out this Stug and one of the infantry, boom, you're good. If we had been in an assault mission instead of an attack, the Stug would actually be hulled down as well. So that would be a little bit of a problem. I think I'm going to try to get myself hull down if I can, because I start open country. Now, I'm going to leave my starting setup as it is. I've got an AP round loaded. Since I want to take out the Stug, we'll stick with the AP round. I'll switch to HE rounds and machine gun fire after dummy here is taken down. All right, so on the back of our rule book here is a sequence of battle. So what happens when and all the other good stuff. Normally you're going to start at the top and work down unless you're starting with an attack or assault mission. We are in a attack mission, which means we start, I think it's at 3. Yep. 3 right here, because we have to determine enemy targeting. So the way you're kind of thinking about it is there's a battle going on. It's not just us against the world. This is just our little section of the war. So they could be shooting at others, right? And sometimes they can get taken out by not you. And it's in effect, your friendly forces have taken them out, right? So we have to determine whether or not any of these guys are targeting us. If we start shooting at them, they automatically target us, flat out. But if we don't shoot at them, so it kind of behooves me to just target one, work on taking him down, because once I start shooting at this Stug, he's going to start shooting at me, right? We're going to go back and forth at each other. It behooves me not to fire at these infantry, because then they're going to go after me as a target, although I'm at long range, so infantry can't do squat to me anyway. And there is a summary of all of this down here at the bottom. Attack mission, infantry dug in, enemy forces fire first in the first combat round only. Possibility of an enemy counterattack. So you could have a follow-on mission without being able to resupply. And it's actually kind of good that we are not in a move to contact, because if we were in move to contact, old Stuggy here would try to move to this flanking position to try to get a side shot on me. Don't want him to do that. I might move up to medium range, but we'll have to see. All right, since they get the first attack, we do have to roll to see if any of them are targeting us. Hopefully they're not. Let's do it for the Stug and then the 2 infantry. So for the Stug, he's not. And for the next infantry, he's not. And I guess it's really not going to matter because they're not moving up. So I don't have to worry about it, even if they are. And he's not. So we're actually good. We don't have to worry about anything at this point. In effect, they are tied up in other parts of the battle right now. So we don't have to worry about them attacking us. Had any of them rolled a 1, then we'd have to worry about them shooting at us, especially this Stug. If he'd rolled a 1, he'd pop a shot at me right off the bat. So since they're done, I get to go next, which means I get to do 2 things on this list of a lot of stuff, right? Basically fire at the same target, which you do get a bonus for firing at the same target. Fire machine guns, smoke, ready the rack, reload it, which means add 4 more rounds into this over here. Remember, not Willie Pete's or the smoke, but the regular rounds, AP or HE. Doing switch rounds, moving forward, backward, hull down, angle the hull. So like you can see, these have a star pattern to it. So you can turn your tank to face in a certain direction. Right now, we're still good. But if they were over here at E, I would have to pivot towards E to prevent them from getting a flank shot on me. So basically, you're going to take flanking fire from the 2 extremes. Where we're at now, the 2 extremes are D and E. So if I turn and I'm facing this way, then the two extremes are going to be C and E. So just think of it that way. Two areas can always flank target you depending on where you're facing. So if you're facing forward, it has to be these two bottom ones. And if you turn towards whichever direction, it's going to be the two on the outside. We're going to keep facing forward, so he's firing at us. But I'm thinking I'm going to move up to medium range, try to go hull down, and then take a shot at him. Because as long as I'm not at close range, I still don't have to worry about the infantry. All right, so for us, if I move, we do have to roll on B5, but we're clear terrain if we don't have any bad crap going on. So it's only a double 2 snake eyes that'll get us mobilized, and then I can attempt to go hull down in the same action. And let's see, yeah, I'm not buttoned up. I'm still open right now, so I would not get that penalty. So I've got a 2/3 or 1/3 chance of making the hull down, but at least my shot will be better. I could take 2 shots at him as is just right now, or move forward and have a better chance with one. I'm going to do the move forward and then try to continue to follow on fire in case this first shot doesn't hit, which more than likely it won't. So we'll move forward as our first action, and now we got to check for the immobilization and for being hull down. So for mobilized, no snake eyes. No snake eyes, close. I saw those pips, I was worried for a second. And now we need to check to see if we are going to be hull down or not. I do want the hull down because it will make it harder for him to hit me and make me a little more defensible. So give daddy a 5 or a 6. All right, we got the 5, perfect. That actually works really well. So I am going to move this over to hull down. Now we're defensible. So we spent one action moving up, getting closer. We're going to spend our second action targeting this guy. We have to look at our modifiers. We're at medium range, so we need a 2 to 6 just to hit him. And remember, we're looking for our main gun hit right over here, our power. So our firepower is a 7. We have to keep that in mind when we go down to this little penetration chart, because we do beat his armor. So there's a good chance we could destroy him if we penetrate him, right? That's why I like the 76 over the damn 75 mil, because it's crap. But we got to hit him first. We're not getting the previous target because we haven't fired at him. But on the next turn, since this is our second action, we would get that. That carries on as long as you're still firing at the same target. And I don't think anything else is going to go against us because we're not buttoned up. Target's not hull down. Nobody's suppressed. No smoke. No rain. So no modifiers to worry about. We're just looking for a naked 2 to 6 here. All right, so let's roll. See if we get the stug. Oh, we got him on the first shot. Oh, I was banking on that follow-on modifier coming into play. But that means we hit, which means we need a 2d6 roll of anything but a 3 to take this guy out. And at which point, that's pretty well game, because I would keep range away from this infantry and just plink away at them until they gone. All right, so let's roll, see if we get him. And yeah, 6, that'll get him. Looking at our thing here, DE means destroyed. So we got him on the first shot, and make sure I take that out. And since that has been spent, we're going to switch over to an HE round now, since we're going to be targeting those guys. I'll probably use combination machine gun and HE fire to go after them. Boom! Stug taken out on the first round. That actually works really, really well, because I can just stick here at medium range and plink at those guys. They are not firing at me. Now remember, we're still in the first round. They already fired. Normally, in the way the game plays out, sequence of play, you would determine their fire and have them attack now, but they already did that first. So we skip that part and go to the next section of the game. All right, so we look here. We are at that part now where we're doing our event check. So after their combat, my combat done, we go to a random event check, and then we run the round all over again if there are enemies left. So we check this. Hopefully we don't get any low rolls because I don't want any artillery attacks. This would have been nice, but they do not have any AT guns left. And ooh, if they destroy, if we get a 9, that means they lose an infantry, and that's the end of the match. Actually, that would be really nice. Also, potential mortar attack, vehicle attack, and a minefield will cause a different random event when that pops up. And just so you guys can see, there is a reminder right here. If a 12 result is rolled, a random event is triggered instead of the listed minefield event. So you would roll on that chart. All right, so let's roll, see what we're going to have for our event. Destroy one random German vehicle. Unfortunately, they are out of vehicles. Would have been nice if I had taken out infantry, then they would have lost their stug. And again, that represents the other battlefield stuff happening. Basically, another tank shooting them or something like that. But we don't have to worry about it, so we run the round again. All right, so at the top of the round, we would degrade any smoke that was on the table. There's none. Remove any suppression markers. There's none from the previous round. And we will determine the enemy targeting at this point. We resolve any fire, but then we conduct our actions, and then enemy forces will act. So that first round is the only one where it's done differently, where they attack first. But we do need to determine their targeting. All right, so we'll do right to left, this one to see who they are targeting. So not me for that one, and for the second, not me. All right, that works. And remember again, we're still looking for ones. Now, since I'm going to start shooting at one of these guys, that means that infantry is going to start attacking me, but he needs to be at close range. And see, this is the one part of the game that I am a little unsure about. And you guys let me know as far as this goes. When it comes to just infantry like this, specifically on like an attack mission where they don't close the range, would they close the range? Like at least the one that I'm attacking? Because infantry can only target a tank at close range only. So I would think that they would use their action to move up. But again, I could just use one of my actions to fall back. But again, there's that chance of me becoming immobilized. So I'm not entirely sure how that would work. It doesn't explain it too well when it comes to infantry, because in the attack mission, the enemies don't move. So you guys let me know if I'm reading that wrong, but I think when it's just infantry left, they're kind of at a big disadvantage. All right, we're going to stay at medium range. I definitely don't want to move to close because I don't want them targeting me, and we'll target this one on the right. Unfortunately, they are dug in, but if they move, they would lose that dug in, which would be nice. I think we'll shoot them with HE or a machine gun. It really doesn't matter. All right, I think actually I'm going to go with a machine gun attack. Just do something a little different than the HE, since we already did the main gun targeting over here. So let's spend a round from our machine gunners. Do our 50 cal, since that's on the top. We're open. We can target this infantry, which will make them start targeting us, but I'm hoping to get them wiped out here in the first round. We've got our HE, MG attack chart here, so our machine gun attack chart. We're targeting infantry, and we don't have any modifiers that will apply just yet. Oh, wait, nope, dug in, so they are getting a +1 to it. Oh, no, I was hoping to get them all wiped out, but maybe it'll take a couple of rounds. We'll see if we get them. Hopefully, no train tracks. Train tracks means stoppage, so we lose that machine gun for a round as they have to clear it. But we do have a coaxial, so we could do that for another shot if need be. Hopefully, if we get a low enough roll, we can take them out in one go, wipe out both steps. All right, so this is for the first attack. See what we get. Oh, you got to be kidding me. We got a 3. But because they're dug in, no. That was so cool. I was going to be happy if we got them in one. That's going to be 1 step loss and a suppression, which means we'll probably kill them on this next attack. So we'll take our suppression marker here and we'll place it on it. We flip the counter over to signify the fact that they have taken 1 step loss. They're still dug in, but now they're suppressed on top of it. So thanks to the way infantry work, if he takes another suppressed result, it means another step loss since he's already suppressed at this point, which means all of this basically becomes a kill shot instead of just suppression. And since we fired at him before, we can actually now negate the dug in bonus because he's getting a +1 and now we're getting a -1 because we're firing at him again and he was the previous target. So we'll remove another set of machine guns. So we're down to 2 rounds left, but that, remember, is infinite. All the machine gun is infinite, has to be reloaded, but it's infinite. And same with these rounds up here. All right, anything 9 and under will work. Come on, get them. And that's a 7. So yeah, that will get on with another suppression result, which because they are already suppressed causes an extra step loss. So they are effectively taken out. Now, due to the way that infantry work, when you are down to enemies where you only have a single infantry left, they clear out, they abandon the position, they've been run off. Now, to save us a touch of time, because this video has gotten extremely long, much longer than I wanted it to be, we're going to go ahead and count that as them being done, but we would have to finish out the round normally, which means we would do an event check, which remember can spawn in extra enemy troops. And if you rolled for extra enemy troops appearing on the board, then they would not flee, right? Because they wouldn't be the only ones left. But now we would go to end of combat. All right, so for us, since we are an attack mission, if your tank remains operational at the current mission and the current mission type is attack or assault, you got to roll 1d6 at the end of it. And if it's a 6, it is a continue on with a German counterattack. So you set up the battle board again, but now it becomes a defense mission, but the weather and terrain remain the same, but there is no chance at a resupply. So anything that you've spent is still gone. Remember, like I said, these ammo pieces, the machine gun, and your normal rounds are infinite, but these are not. So if you pop smoke or Willie Pete's or APCR, you're not getting those back in that defensive mission. And let's just see, because depending on what happens here, I might play this off camera because I like this game. Let's see. Do we have a follow on? And no, we don't. So no defensive mission for us. So like I said, normally I would do the event check to find out whether or not they were going to have more people. But for time's sake, we're going to say the infantry ran off because they were the only ones left. So once your mission is complete, you would mark it down on your chart, what type of mission it was, what targets were taken out, whether you succeeded or failed, and any little notes that you have to add. But don't forget that you do your war trophies at the end of each mission in which you retain the battlefield, which means you win, right? So you weren't destroyed or driven off, and you may collect multiples of each item. So we would roll a 2d6 roll to see if we got any war trophies. For us, for this mission, we would get a 9, which would be an Iron Cross medal. That's actually not too bad. Total value is a 2. The Walter PPK is a 4, but we got a medal. And you can trade those items in for extra stuff, right? Cleaning kit, booze, HVAP rounds, extra mortar missions, and this is the cost. So this is the value you get, and you can spend it for this on follow-on missions. And again, remember, you can keep track of that as well on your crew status sheet. And just like that, you guys have seen how a game of American Tank Ace plays. I gotta say, for me, I definitely like this game. It has jumped up to one of my favorites in the roll and play series. I would like personal niggle, and it might be me reading something wrong or reading or missing a part of the rules, but the infantry information be fleshed out a little bit. Like, will they move up, or how are they going to perform their attacks? If it's a couple of infantry left, are they going to close the range? For me, I think I would kind of make a judgment call where, they're going to try to close the range with you, because if they can't attack unless they're at close range, then they're going to try to close the range. Even if they're going to lose their dug-in status, they want to get in on that tank and hit it with a Panzerfaust or something like that. So for me, even if the mission says that they're not going to move, I'd allow them to move just so they could perform their attack. Now, that doesn't mean I can't keep moving my tank back, but remember, there's a chance you can become immobilized, and then the infantry can swarm up, flank on you, and hit you with a Panzer. For me, I gotta say, it really does kind of jump up, in my opinion, because there's a lot of stuff you got to keep track of, right? It still takes the same amount of space that you see in the other roll and play games. Usually it's a player aid or two that you have to keep track of. Like Silent Victory, you got your submarine chart. And in that one, you really have to worry about, are you attacking at night or day, and what range, surfaced, unsurfaced. But all of that pretty much takes place on this chart, that equivalent. And you have your torpedoes that you have to worry about. And it is kind of cool that you only get so many, and you have to spend them wisely, because once you're out, you can't keep, searching for convoys, and you have to go back and refit. But in this one, you can stick in the battle. You can stay there longer. There's that chance that there's going to be a counterattack from the Germans, and then you're going to have to run the mission again. But now you're shorter on supply. Your guys might be wounded. Your tank might be damaged. Are you going to be able to survive that? And then the way this battlefield works, you actually do have the ability to move your vehicle around, smoke different areas out. That way you can focus on, different sides. The enemy is going to attempt to flank you. It feels like a deeper version of combat rather than just marking what range you're at and what time of day you're attacking. Now, don't get me wrong, I still love Silent Victory. It is still one of my favorite games, and I think that's, for me, it holds a special place. It was one of my first games that I had that was this type of game. But American Tank Ace really, really steps it up. If you are into this type of game, this is an absolute must-buy. Absolutely, 100%. Components are great. The way the battlefields play out, I've enjoyed everything with it. The only thing, couple niggles with the rules that I'd like to see fleshed out a little bit, but again, that could be me, so I'm not going to hold it too much against it. You guys let me know down in the comments if I'm reading that wrong. The only other thing that I would say that bothers me, and I hate kind of giving them this, is the fact that the box is a little bit thin. And I can see why they did that, because there's not a whole lot of components you got to worry about. A couple of mounted boards and a bunch of player aids. So it really doesn't need to be that thick. If it's just those components that you're worrying about, they all fit in the box very nicely. But when it comes to games like this, I like to have my counters trade up, right? It looks so much better. It's easier to keep track of. It's just so much more simple when you got it like this, and you can pull out the pieces that you need. But that counter trade takes up almost the entire box. I can put a couple things around the side like the dice, but the rest of it stacks on it, which means the box is not going to firmly close on top of it once I get all the rules and player aids and mounted pieces back in the box. So it wouldn't even need to be that much bigger, just like that, like just a little bit, like ½ inch would be enough to get a full close while still having a counter tray in there. That's the only thing that I'd like to see changed, really. And again, it's a small complaint, but it is something that I think a lot of war gamers can get behind, because plenty of us use counter trays. So I think manufacturers got to remember that when they're having these boxes made. Can you fit a counter tray and all the components back in the box? If not, make the box bigger. Anyway, I do hope you guys have enjoyed this long-ass video. It definitely took longer than I was planning on, but this game is fun. I wanted to play it all out and let you guys see how it all works. It is just a fantastic game. It is really one of my top favorite roll and plays now. And if you were into those types, you are doing yourself a disservice not to try this one out. Anyway, that's going to be it for me. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Y'all take care. I'll catch you in the next one.